The galaxy was not quiet by nature. It sang with radio chatter, drive wakes and ship-to-ship greetings. Tonight it felt wrong. The noise was gone, like a breath held too long. In the Hall of Voices, the elders stood in a small circle and listened to the silence. "It begins," Elder Kiva said. Her hands shook, but her voice did not. Elder Talon bowed his head. "We warned them." On the high balcony, the council laughed. Their robes flashed gold under the lights. Their leader, a pale man with a bright smile, waved a hand like he was shooing a fly. "Old stories," he said, "old fears. The trade lanes are full. No danger. Go home." The elders did not go home. They watched the stars and waited. Far away on the human relay station Calypso above Neptune, a radio officer named Mara Jin chewed cold coffee and glared at her screen. She was young, quiet, and stubborn in a soft way. She loved signals because they never lied. When they went away, she paid attention. "Raffi," she said into her headset, "are you seeing this drop?" Her captain's voice came back heavy with sleep. "What drop?" "Everything," Mara said. "Outer sectors, 12 through 16. It's like someone cut the wires." Raffi walked in a minute later with his jacket half on. He looked older than the ship and twice as tired. "Show me." Mara pulled up maps. Lines of light that should have dazzled now faded one by one. "I pinged our partners," she said. No reply. "Maybe a glitch," Raffi said. Mara shook her head. "Not this big." "What do you think?" "I think something is listening," Mara said. She did not know why she said it. The words just fit the shape of the fear in her chest. Raffi stared at the dark map. "Prep a drone." They launched Asta, a small round probe with a shy little engine. On the feed, stars crawled slow. Dust rolled like mist. There was no traffic, no beacons, no noise. 5 hours later, Asta reached the edge of Sector 14 and found a drift field, broken ships, shattered hulls, and a large black pod that did not reflect light. It looked like a hole punched into space. "What is that?" Raffi asked. Mara leaned closer. "It's broadcasting." "I hear nothing." "It's below standard bands," Mara said. "Under the floor." She tuned the Asta's ear until a thin, cold whisper slid into their headsets. It was not a voice, it was a pattern. Tap, tap, silence, tap, 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 silence, tap. Raffi frowned. "A code?" Mara typed, paused, then typed again. "It's old. Pre-warp rescue code, but backward." "Backward? Like it wants us to mirror it," Mara said. Raffi studied the pod. "Bring Asta closer." The probe drifted near the pod. The black skin opened like an eye. Inside waited a metal ring and a small crystal with a hairline crack. Words bloomed across Mara's screen in a language that should not be there, and yet she understood, the way you understand pain without a dictionary. "Read it," Raffi said. "Do not answer the knock," Mara whispered. "If you hear the dark between taps, it is already here." Raffi breathed out slow. "Where did this come from?" "The file header says Horizon," Mara said. "That was a human ship. A generational scout, lost 90 years ago." Raffi rubbed his eyes. "So, it found something, then sent a warning, and now we hear the same pattern." Mara nodded. "Yes." The station door slid open. A tall woman in grey stepped in. She wore no rank, only a small pin shaped like a spiral. "I am Yara," she said. "I listen for the elders." Raffi lifted a brow. "The elders? We sent no call for you." "You did," Yara said and looked at the dead map. "This silence is a call." Mara's mouth was dry. "Do you know what that pod is?" Yara walked to the console. "It is a lock. Your ship Horizon learned to build one. It holds a mouth closed." "A mouth?" Raffi asked. Yara spoke like someone carrying a heavy box of words. "Not a beast with teeth, a mind that feeds on attention. When we look at it, when we speak to it, it grows. The elders call it the unsaid." The first sign is quiet. The second sign is the urge to answer. Mara thought about the backward code. It wants us to knock back. Exactly, Yara said. The council thinks this is a ghost story. They laugh and say, stars do not hide from a mind. But the stars learn. Raffi pointed at the cracked crystal. Why is the lock broken? Locks break, Yara said. Time wins, or someone gets curious. A soft light flashed on Mara's screen. Her heart jumped. The council is calling. They want proof. Raffi grimaced. If we show them this, they will answer. They will demand return signals, tests. They will knock and knock until the door opens. Yara's eyes were calm and sad. You see the shape of it. Mara swallowed. What do we do? We keep the door closed, Yara said. A chime interrupted her. Asta, the probe, had drifted a little too close to the pod. The pattern grew louder, sweet as a bell from far away, then sweeter still. It made Mara think of home, of the first time her mother called her in from rain. She felt the urge to say hello out loud. Step back, Asta, Raffi said. Mara tried, but the probe did not move. The pod had woken a faint pull. The drone's engine whined. The pattern shifted. Tap, 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 tap. It felt like fingers on a door underwater. Don't answer, Yara said. Whatever happens, do not speak to it. Mara's throat worked. It doesn't want me to speak. It wants the station to speak. She tapped fast. There's an automatic handshake in our system. If a device sends a rescue code, our software mirrors it. That's the law, Raffi cursed. Can you shut it off? Mara dug into menus. The handshake timer was already running. 10 seconds. 9. She kept her voice flat and slow like a rope across a pit. I'm going to cut the main relay. That will signal a fault, Raffi said. Better a fault than a greeting, Mara said. Yara stood close beside her. You are not weak, she said softly. Remember that. Mara pulled the relay plan and found the right line. It ran behind the cooling bay. She had to go there herself. Keep watching the timer, she said. She ran. Steam curled in the cooling bay. Metal sweated. Her breath echoed in her ears. She found the panel and yanked it open. The cable she needed was thick and old, wrapped in a hard shell. She set her cutter and pressed. The tool hummed. The shell softened. The timer spoke in her earpiece. 5, 4... Come on, Mara said. She felt the hunger of the pattern even here. It wanted the station to say its name. She did not know its name, and that felt lucky. 3, 2... The shell split. She grabbed the hot cable with her gloved hand and tore it free. Lights went dark. The hum of the station dropped to a low ghost of power. The timer died on 1. Silence filled the hall again, but it was a different silence. It was chosen. Mara stood still with the cable in her hand and the dark pressing on her skin. Her headset clicked back to life on the emergency band. Raffi's voice was small and smiling. You did it. Yara spoke after him, and in her voice there was something like pride. A lock is not always a thing, she said. Sometimes it is a choice. Mara walked back to the control room. The pod still sat in space like a pit of night, but the pull was weaker. The pattern faded, angry now, then thin, then gone. On the far map, a few tiny lights blinked back on as distant ships rebooted and found each other in the dark. Raffi stretched and let out a long breath. The council will scream about this, he said. They will say we broke protocol. Mara sat down at her chair and looked at the empty message buffer, clean as snow. Let them scream. Yara turned to the window. The blue curve of Neptune hung silent and huge. The elders will hear, she said. They will know you kept the door shut for one more night. Mara touched the cracked crystal image still on her screen from the Horizons pod. The human ship had gone long ago, but its warning had reached them. She thought of the people on that ship. She thought of the hands that set the lock and the hearts that chose not to answer. She felt close to them, like a voice carried across years. Raffi said, "What now?" Mara looked at the black pod and the dim stars around it. "Now we prepare," she said, "because it will knock again." Yara nodded once, a quiet bow. "And when it does," she said, "you will not be alone." The emergency lights warmed the control room with a soft, stubborn glow. Outside, the dark waited, but it did not grow. Mara listened to the silence, and this time she was the one who smiled. The galaxy still sang, but tonight, its strongest note was a simple choice, held steady by human hands. Under a pale sun, Earth spun like it always had. People woke, argued, worked, and dreamed without knowing how close the stars were to silence. Humans had no idea what Mara, Raffi, and the elders already feared. But change was coming. The council thought of humanity as fragile, divided, and reckless. They saw only wars and greed. Yet beneath the surface, something else stirred, an instinct older than empires, a hunger to endure. In a crowded lecture hall in Geneva, Professor Elias Ward spoke to restless students. He was tall, grey-haired, and had eyes that carried storms. On the wall behind him, an old star map glowed. "History shows us one truth," Elias said. "When the world presses us to the edge, we fight back." A student laughed. "Fight back? Against what? We can't even fix our own problems." Elias did not smile. "Against everything. Against famine. Against disease. Against the cold of space itself. We fall, yes, but then we rise." The words lingered, sharp as iron. What none of them knew was that even now, whispers of missing ships and broken signals were spreading through hidden channels. People like Mara Jin tried to raise alarms, but the council blocked reports. They wanted calm, not panic. Later that evening, Elias returned home. His daughter Anna sat at the table with a radio scanner. She was only 16, but curious like a flame. "Listen," Anna said. "I caught something strange." The radio gave a faint tapping sound, familiar to Elias, though he did not know why. "Where did you find this?" he asked. "Deep band channel," Anna said. It was weak, almost. "Buried," Elias frowned. "Don't play it again." "Why? It's just noise." "It's not noise," Elias said too quickly. He covered her hand on the dial. "Promise me you won't answer it." Anna tilted her head. "Who would I answer?" "Promise," Elias said. She nodded, though confusion shadowed her eyes. That night, Elias sat alone by the window. He thought of old stories his grandmother told him, stories of doors that should never be opened. He did not believe them then. Now he felt their weight. Humanity had a way of touching fire even when warned. Far above, in orbit, General Armin Voss met with his officers. The room was metal and cold, but their voices carried heat. "Reports from outer sectors," one officer said. 3 colonies. "Silent, no distress beacons." Armin's jaw tightened. "Council says ignore." "Yes, sir." "They claim local malfunctions." Armin's fist struck the table. "Malfunctions don't eat entire colonies." A younger officer hesitated. "Sir, with respect, we don't have the power. Our fleet is small. We aren't ready for open defense." Armin's eyes were hard steel. "When are humans ever ready? We fight when we must, not when we are prepared." Silence followed. Then the younger officer straightened his shoulders. "Then give the order." Armin did not give it yet, but the thought of standing idle burned more than the thought of defeat. Meanwhile, in a coastal town in Japan, a fisherman named Daiichi woke to find the sea wrong. The stars above reflected in the water like broken glass. His nets came up empty, not of fish but of ash. He touched it and heard faint tapping in his bones. He dropped the net and whispered, "Not here too." Across the world, strange events multiplied. Static in radios, sudden power cuts, ships vanishing without a trace. Ordinary people felt unease in their blood. Something was drawing close. Anna could not sleep. The tapping from the scanner played in her memory like a secret knocking. She crept back to the table, turned the dial, and listened. Tap, tap, tap. Silence. Tap. Her hand trembled, but she whispered, "Hello?" The line hissed. A cold voice. Like wind answered, but not in words. It filled her head with a vision of black stars and hollow faces. She screamed and tore off the headset. Elias rushed in, held her shaking frame and pulled the plug. "I told you not to answer." Anna sobbed. "It heard me." Elias did not doubt it. He looked at the dead scanner and felt the weight of centuries press down. At the same time, Mara Jin sent a coded message through underground channels. She warned of the pod, of the knock, of the broken lock. She expected silence. Instead, she received an answer not from the council but from the elders themselves. "We believe you," the message said. "Humans must endure. Prepare them. The storm is real." Mara printed the words, held them like a flame, and felt hope cut through her fear. The next morning the council made an announcement. Their smiling faces filled every screen. "There is no danger," the speaker declared. "Rumors of lost colonies are false. Trade continues. Sleep easy, citizens of the galaxy." But even as they spoke, ships burned at the edge of known space. Refugees drifted in dead freighters, and in the shadows, whispers spread of humans refusing to bend, refusing to fall. Elias stood before his class again. His voice carried stronger than before. "They think we are small," he said. "They think we are weak, but weakness is not what they see. They see fear, and they are wrong. When the time comes, humanity will not kneel. We will fight." Anna sat in the back row, pale but steady, the memory of the voice still echoing inside her. She believed her father now. On a hidden station, General Armin finally gave the order. "Mobilize the fleet, quietly. We move without the council." His officers saluted. The first sparks of defiance lit, and far above the clouds, Mara watched the stars. The silence no longer felt empty. It felt heavy, waiting, like the breath before a storm. She whispered to herself, "We're not ready, but we'll never be ready, and still we will endure." The knock would come again. The council would laugh until they choked on their pride. But in the heart of humanity, in classrooms, on fishing boats, in silent stations, something stronger than fear was growing. The elders had seen it, the council denied it, and soon the galaxy would learn. Humans were never just dreamers. They were survivors. And when the storm finally arrived, they would fight until the stars themselves remembered their name. The first sign came without fire or thunder. It came in silence. At the far edge of the galaxy, a mining colony called Vera 9 vanished. One day its lights filled the void. The next day the station was gone. No distress call, no wreckage. Only silence, spreading like ink in water. On Earth, news screens flickered with smiling faces from the council. "Technical failure," they said. "Nothing to fear." Their laughter rang false, but on hidden channels, whispers grew louder. Something was moving, and the council's lies could no longer hide it. Mara Jin sat in the control room of her station, her eyes on the dead map. Raffi stood beside her, his jaw tight. "3 colonies," Mara said softly. "All gone the same way," Raffi nodded. "And still they deny." "They won't deny for long," Mara replied. "Not when it comes closer." She was right. That night the sky above Mars split open. Civilians stared as a black shape slid out of nothing. It was not a ship. It was a shadow shaped like hunger. Lights across the colony flickered and died. Screams carried over open channels before cutting to silence. Soldiers fired at it, but beams bent, weapons froze, and minds cracked under its whisper. A single shuttle escaped. Its pilot, blood dripping from his nose, screamed into the radio, "It listens when you speak. Don't answer the knock." Then the line broke. The panic could not be hidden now. Across the galaxy, fear spread faster than fire. In the council chamber, golden robes no longer glittered with pride. They argued, shouted, and pointed fingers. "We must hold our borders," and shouted. "Ridiculous," another cried. "It is not even real, just mass hysteria." But then the chamber shook. The giant screens lit up with live feeds, whole fleets burning, planets dark. The council fell silent, faces pale. In the corner, Elder Kiva stood. Her old voice was steady. "We warned you, you laughed. Now the storm knocks at your own door." The speaker of the council tried to protest. "What can humans do? They are fractured. They are weak." Kiva's eyes sharpened. "Weakness? You have never seen their kind under pressure. Where you flee, they stand. Where you surrender, they fight." Far from the chamber, Elias Ward held his daughter Anna's hand as alarms howled in Geneva. People rushed for shelters, but the air itself felt wrong, heavy with invisible weight. Anna looked at her father. "Is it here?" Elias pulled her close. "Not yet, but it's coming." From the north, lights died one city at a time. Shadows slithered across the sky, not clouds, not storms, but something vast pressing against the world. Soldiers fired into empty air. The bullets fell like rain. "Papa," Anna whispered, "what if they're right? What if we're too small?" Elias knelt and looked into her eyes. "Listen to me, size means nothing. Fire can be small, yet burn the whole forest. That is what we are." Meanwhile, General Armin Voss stood aboard the human flagship Resolute. His fleet, a patchwork of ships built from tired budgets and desperate engineers, faced the horizon of dark space. Officers waited for his command. "Sir," one said, voice trembling, "the enemy, it's not even a shape we can lock on. Our scanners can't define it." Armin's eyes blazed. "Then forget scanners. Trust your eyes. Trust your instincts. Humanity has survived every impossible storm by refusing to die. This one will be no different." The first wave struck. Ships vanished in silence, like candles snuffed out. The shadow fed on signals, on panic, on the very act of being seen. Crews screamed, some froze, but others fought back. Human pilots rammed their ships into the darkness, detonating themselves to hold the line for one more breath. Mara watched the feed with tears in her eyes. "They'll all die," she whispered. Yara, the woman of the elders, shook her head. "They fight, and in their fight is the seed of survival. Do you not see it? Every loss teaches them. Every fall makes them rise differently. This is how they grow stronger." On the battlefield, Armin saw the truth. Standard weapons failed. But one pilot, desperate and half-mad, shut down his systems, drifted silent and waited. The shadow passed by him without touching. "Report!" Armin shouted. The pilot gasped into the comm. "It doesn't see what does not speak. It hunts sound, signal, thought." I went silent. It ignored me. Armin seized the idea. "Order the fleet, cut signals, drift and strike only in silence." One by one, human ships went dark. Engines cut, radios died. In the black they became ghosts. And for the first time, the shadow hesitated. From her station, Mara leaned forward. "They're adapting," she whispered. "They're learning." The battle raged in silence. Ships struck like knives, then vanished into the dark. The shadow reeled, confused, no longer feeding freely. For the first time, it lost ground, but victory came with cost. Half the fleet was gone, thousands dead. The council, watching from safety, shook their heads. "This is madness," one muttered. "This is survival," Elder Kiva corrected. On Earth, Elias and Anna huddled as the darkness in the sky thinned, then slowly pulled back. The first stars blinked through again. People cried, clung to each other, unable to believe they had lived. Anna whispered, "They pushed it back." Elias smiled faintly. "For now. Long enough to learn, long enough to hope." In the council chamber, Silence reigned. At last, the speaker spoke in a cracked voice. Perhaps we underestimated them. Elder Kiva turned her back to him. No, you never saw them at all. Far away, General Armin stood on the bridge of the Resolute, surrounded by the wreckage of brave ships. His officers waited, eyes full of grief and fire. Armin's voice was steady. We survived the first strike. That means we can survive the next. We will fight again and again until the stars themselves admit we will not break. Mara, listening from her post, whispered the words to herself. We will not break. The shadow was not gone. It would return, stronger, hungrier, but humanity had done what no one believed. They had faced the storm and still stood. And somewhere in the deep dark, the enemy paused, unsettled. For the first time in its endless hunger, it had met prey that refused to kneel, prey that bared its teeth. The galaxy would remember that moment. The elders already knew. The council could not deny it anymore. Humanity, small and fragile, had drawn the first blood against the impossible. The storm was here, but so was the fire. The ruins of the first battle still drifted through space. Broken ships spun in silence, their metal husks glowing faint in the light of distant suns. Humanity had survived, but the cost was carved into every wreck. The shadow had been pushed back, yet everyone knew it was not defeated. It would return, hungrier than before. General Armin Voss stood on the bridge of the Resolute. His face was hard, his voice steady, but his eyes betrayed the grief he carried. Around him, officers whispered, waiting for his words. We lost half our fleet, one said quietly. Armin nodded. Yes, and we learned how to wound it. That is worth more than a fleet, another officer spoke up. But sir, can we win, truly win? Armin turned toward the viewport, where stars gleamed like cold fire. Victory is not given, it is made, and humanity makes it with blood, sweat, and stubborn will. We will not bow. Far below, on Earth, the mood shifted. Fear was still heavy, but so was resolve. Cities had burned, but survivors gathered in streets with banners that read, "We endure." Nations that once fought over land and pride now sent supplies to each other. Engineers worked together in hidden factories. Soldiers trained side by side, not as rivals, but as one people. Elias Ward watched the change with quiet pride. His daughter, Anna, stood with him at a refugee camp, handing water to tired families. "Papa," she whispered, "I saw the news. The fleet fought back. They found a way to hurt it." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "Yes, and that changes everything. The council said we were weak. Now the galaxy knows the truth." Anna's voice trembled. "But the shadow will come again." Elias met her eyes. "Then we'll stand again. That's who we are." Meanwhile, Mara Jin sat at her console in the Neptune station, studying recordings of the battle. Her eyes were heavy, her hands shaking from lack of sleep. Yara, the woman of the elders, entered silently. "You haven't rested," Yara said. "I can't," Mara replied. "Every frame matters. Look, here, when the pilot went silent, the shadow ignored him. But when he powered up again, it turned back. That means it listens, it hunts what it can hear." Yara leaned closer. "Then silence is our shield." Mara shook her head. "Only for a moment. We need more than silence. We need to turn its hunger against itself." Yara's eyes gleamed. "You are close to understanding. That is why the elders chose to listen to you." Back on the Resolute, Armin called for a secret council of captains. The room was dim, the air tense. "We cannot wait for the shadow to strike again," Armin said. "We must take the fight to it." One captain frowned. "Attack? Sir, we don't even know where it sleeps." Armin tapped the table. A map of space appeared, marked with dead colonies and battle sites. "It does not strike at random. There is a pattern, And at the center of that pattern lies something it is guarding or feeding on. The captains exchanged uneasy looks. Another spoke up. "If you're wrong, we lead our people to death." Armin's voice was steel. "If we do nothing, death comes anyway. At least this way, we fight on our terms." The vote was not unanimous, but it was enough. Humanity would strike. Days later, fleets gathered in silence. Old warships, patched freighters turned into carriers, even civilian crafts armed with stolen weapons. They were mismatched, fragile, and too few, but they were united. Across the comms, no one spoke. Every ship ran dark, moving like shadows. Among the stars, on Earth, millions watched the silent departure. Anna held her father's hand as the news played. "They look so small," she said softly. Elias whispered back, "Sometimes the smallest stones break the largest walls." The fleet moved into the void. Hours stretched into days. Then Mara's voice came over the encrypted channel. "I found it," she said, "a signal beneath the dark. Not random, but a heartbeat. It's pulling power from somewhere, like a nest." Armin ordered a course change. They drifted closer, weapons cold, engines whispering. And then they saw it. The nest was not a planet, not a star. It was a vast, hollow sphere, black as night, pulsing with faint red veins. Inside it, something shifted. The shadow was not one thing, it was many. Fragments, swarms, like shards of darkness waiting for command. "Dear God," one officer whispered. "There are thousands of them." Armin's jaw tightened. "Then we burn the nest." The plan was desperate. Ships dropped silent charges into the sphere, bombs built from stolen tech and human stubborn genius. They floated into place, waiting. At Armin's signal, every ship lit up, broadcasting false signals. A storm of noise. The nest stirred. Shadows poured out, racing toward the noise. The bombs detonated, light erupted, tearing holes through the black sphere, fragments scattered, burning bright. For a moment it seemed victory had come. Crews cheered, voices breaking silence, but then the cheers died. The fragments twisted, joining together, forming a larger shape. The shadow was not weakened, it was angry. It surged forward faster than before, devouring ships like sparks in a flood. Armin shouted, "Fall back! Scatter!" The fleet broke apart. Explosions painted the void. Mara screamed into her mic, "Don't speak! Go silent now!" The remaining ships killed their signals. Silence wrapped them again. The shadow slowed, searching, confused. Armin's ship drifted in the dark, powerless, crew holding their breath. The shadow passed close, so near the hull groaned. Then, slowly, it slid away, drawn back toward the wounded nest. Silence stretched. Finally, Raffi whispered, "Did we win?" Armin's voice was low but fierce. "No, but we hurt it, and we lived." On Earth, survivors of the battle sent signals back, images of burning nests, of ships that refused to kneel. The council stared, unable to laugh anymore. The elders bowed their heads, murmuring, "The fire grows." Elias hugged Anna tight as they watched the news. "Do you see, child? We may break, but we never stay broken. That is why we endure." In the cold of space, among wrecks and ashes, humanity floated battered but alive. They had faced the storm, struck its heart, and returned breathing. And in the nest of shadows, a new sound began, slow, heavy, patient. The enemy was changing too. The war was not over. It had only just begun. The fleet drifted like ghosts through the black. Hulls burned, engines failed, but still the humans moved forward. They had struck the Shadow's nest and lived, but the cost was heavy. More than half their ships were gone, thousands of families broken by silence. Yet the survivors did not bow their heads. On the bridge of the Resolute, General Armin Voss stood with his hands on the table, staring at the fractured map of stars. His officers waited in silence, afraid to speak. "We are not beaten," Armin said at last. His voice carried like iron through the dim room. "We are bloodied, yes, but not beaten. An officer leaned forward. "Sir, the nest will heal. Next time it will be stronger. How can we face it again?" Armin's gaze burned. "By refusing to stop. That is how humanity has always survived. We learn, we adapt, and we rise." Far away, Mara Jin replayed battlefeeds on her cracked console. Her eyes were ringed with sleepless shadows. Raffi sat beside her, silent, until she slammed her hand against the desk. "It changed, Raffi," she said. "We hit it and it changed. It learns as we do." Raffi frowned. "Then what hope do we have?" Mara looked up, her voice fierce. "Hope is the one thing it cannot copy." Yara, quiet until now, stepped forward. "The elders say survival is not a race of strength. It is a race of will, and humans have will like no other." Mara turned to her. "Then help me. I need the old archives. Every scrap of data on the first human ships, the early codes, the forgotten patterns. Somewhere in that history is a weapon the Shadow cannot expect." Yara nodded. "I will give you everything." On Earth, Elias Ward stood before a hall of frightened citizens. His daughter Anna sat in the front row, her eyes wide. The air buzzed with fear. Families whispered of the nest, of the ships that did not return. Some demanded surrender. Elias raised his hand. "Listen to me. Yes, the enemy is strong. Yes, we are small, but weakness is not in size. It is in surrender, and we do not surrender." A man shouted, "Easy for you to say. You're not out there fighting." Elias's voice thundered back. "Every one of us is fighting. The pilots bleed for us, but so do the builders, the farmers, the teachers. This is humanity's war, not the fleet's alone. And if we each stand, then no darkness can consume us." The crowd quieted. Anna felt her chest swell with something. New pride. She saw fear in the faces around her, but also sparks of courage. Meanwhile, in deep orbit, the Resolute prepared for the next battle. Engineers welded new weapons onto old hulls. Scientists tested signals that could bend or confuse the Shadow. Pilots trained to drift silent through blackness, hearts pounding, as they learned to become invisible hunters. One night, the Shadow returned. This time it did not strike one colony. It spread across 3 systems at once. Whole suns dimmed as its presence swallowed light. Refugee ships screamed through channels before being cut short. Armin gave the order. "Deploy all wings. Silence on my mark." The human fleet launched. They did not charge blindly. They split into dozens of small units, scattering like sparks on water. Each unit carried one purpose: survive long enough to strike. As the Shadow poured forward, Mara's voice reached them over secure lines. "Remember, it listens. Do not feed it your fear. Do not answer its knock. Wait until it is blind, then strike." The fleets went dark, silence stretched. In that silence, the Shadow slowed, confused by the absence of noise. Then, like knives from the dark, human ships fired as one. Explosions tore through fragments of the Shadow, scattering them into sparks of dying night. Anna and her father watched the battle from Earth. The feeds showed ships darting like fireflies, each burst of light another strike. Anna gripped Elias's hand. "They're fighting like us, alone, but together." Elias nodded. "That is our strength." But victory did not come easy. The Shadow adapted again, twisting into new shapes, splitting itself into smaller swarms that hunted individually. Human ships were dragged into silence, crews vanishing without a cry. On the Resolute, alarms wailed. "They're surrounding us, sir!" an officer cried. Armin's jaw clenched. "Then we become the storm, all engines to full burn!" The ship roared forward, smashing through a swarm, tearing pieces apart with sheer momentum. Sparks lit the void. The crew cheered, but Armin did not smile. At the same moment, Mara discovered something on her console. "Raffi! Look at this. When it splits, its pieces echo the same pattern. If we send that pattern back twisted, it might confuse them. Raffi blinked. You mean lie to the shadow? Yes, Mara said. Her hands flew over the keys. It listens. So let's tell it a story it can't resist. She broadcast a signal, a false echo of its own hunger. For a heartbeat, the swarms faltered, turning on each other, confused by the mirrored knock. On Earth, Anna gasped as the feed showed shadows, tearing into themselves. Papa, they're fighting each other, Elias whispered. Brilliant girl. She found the key. The humans struck again, pressing the moment. Bombs lit the dark, carving holes through the enemy. Slowly the swarm retreated, limping back toward the nest. The battle was not victory, but it was survival. The humans had not only endured, they had made the shadow bleed. On the bridge of the Resolute, silence fell. Then Armin spoke, voice steady. Mark this day. Humanity faced the storm again, and stood. Across Earth, cheers erupted. In factories, in refugee camps, in ruined cities, people lifted their heads with new fire. Mara leaned back in her chair, exhausted but smiling faintly. It works, she whispered. Yara placed a hand on her shoulder. The elders were right. Humanity does not only endure. Humanity creates hope where none exists. Elias held Anna close as fireworks sparked over the camp, small but defiant. This is who we are, he told her. Not the strongest, not the biggest, but the ones who never stop fighting. In the distance, the nest pulsed with red veins, furious but wounded. The war was not over, but the galaxy had seen something new that night. Humans, fragile and small, had taken the impossible and turned it into hope. The nest pulsed like a wounded heart in the dark. Red cracks spread across its surface, glowing faintly, as if the shadow inside bled. Humanity had struck it again and survived. But no one believed the war was finished. They all knew the enemy would return, stronger, hungrier, and angrier than ever. On Earth, cities rebuilt by candlelight. Survivors painted words of defiance on broken walls. We endure. In the camps, children played at being pilots, shouting orders in voices too young to know war. Hope had begun to burn, but fear lingered like smoke. Elias Ward stood with his daughter Anna on the balcony of the shelter. They watched the sky, waiting. Papa, Anna whispered, do you think it will come again? Elias squeezed her hand. Yes, but when it does, we'll be ready. She looked at him with wide eyes. Ready how? We're still small. Elias smiled faintly. Even the smallest fire can light the dark. In orbit, General Armin Voss stood on the bridge of the Resolute. His officers gathered around him, faces pale but determined. Scouts report movement, one said. The nest is stirring. Armin's jaw tightened. Then this is it, the final strike. Another officer hesitated. Sir, our fleet is still broken. If we go now... Armin cut him off. If we wait, the nest heals, and next time we won't stand a chance. We go now. Humanity fights tonight. The fleet assembled once more. Cracked hulls, patched engines, mismatched weapons, but hearts united. Even civilian ships volunteered, old freighters armed with scavenged cannons. Across every vessel, silence reigned. They all knew what was at stake. In her station above Neptune, Mara Jin worked furiously. Her fingers danced over the console, eyes locked on patterns of signals. Raffi stood close, tension in his voice. Tell me you found something, he said. I did, Mara whispered. The shadow feeds on attention, on signals, on fear. But what if we drown it in its own hunger? What if we turn every human signal into a mirror, reflecting its knockback at itself? Raffi frowned. Wouldn't that risk it hearing all of us? Yes, Mara said. But if it hears too much, it may break itself apart. We have to overload it. This is our only chance. Yara, calm as always, stepped forward. The elders knew it would come to this. They said humanity's greatest weapon was not power, it was sacrifice. Mara's hands stilled. Then let's make the sacrifice count. The order spread. Every ship prepared to broadcast, not silence, but sound. A storm of signals, all twisted copies of the Shadow's own pattern. When the fleet reached the nest, the stars themselves seemed to shudder. The sphere cracked open, and the Shadow poured out. Thousands of fragments swarmed, black waves swallowing the light. "Hold steady," Armin commanded. His voice was steady iron. "On my mark, flood them." The swarm closed in. Ships vanished one by one, ripped apart by the dark. The bridge of the Resolute shook as fragments pounded against its hull. Officers gritted their teeth, waiting. "Now!" Armin roared. Every ship lit up at once. Beacons blazed, radios screamed, signals crashed into the void, billions of echoes repeating the Shadow's knock. The enemy froze. The swarm twisted, writhing as if struck by invisible blades. Its own hunger turned inward, confused, feeding on itself. Fragments collided, devouring each other in madness. "By the stars," Raffi whispered, watching from the Neptune station. "It's working." But the cost was terrible. Ships overloaded and burst into flames. Engines melted under the strain of endless broadcasting. Pilots screamed before static claimed them. Humanity was burning itself alive to drown the Shadow. On Earth, Anna clung to her father's arm as the battle played on the feeds. "Papa, they're all dying," she cried. Elias's voice shook, but he did not look away. "Sometimes dying is how you win." In the void, the nest cracked wider. Light spilled out, brighter than suns. The Shadow screamed, a sound that was not sound, but a tearing in every mind. Crews bled from their ears, but they held the signal. They would not let go. Mara's console sparked, smoke filling the room. She coughed, fingers still pressing the keys. "Stay with me," she begged the fleet. "Just a little longer." On the Resolute, Armin's voice thundered through chaos. "For Earth, for humanity, do not stop." The Shadow writhed, twisting upon itself, until finally, silence. The fragments collapsed into nothing, dissolving like ash in the wind. The nest split open, shattered, and vanished in a final burst of light. Darkness gave way to stars. The battlefield, once filled with screams, was quiet. The surviving ships drifted, broken but alive. Armin stood at the viewport, his chest heaving. His officers stared in awe. "Did we?" one whispered. Armin nodded slowly. "Yes, it's over." On Earth, cheers erupted in every street. People fell to their knees, laughing, weeping, holding each other. For the first time in living memory, the sky felt safe. Anna turned to her father. "They did it. Humans won." Elias pulled her into a tight embrace. "No, child, we survived. That is greater than victory." In the Neptune station, Mara collapsed against Raffi, exhausted but smiling faintly. "We defied it," she whispered. "We defied the impossible." Yara stood over her, eyes soft. The council mocked. The galaxy doubted. But the elders always knew. Humanity would endure. Later, in the council chamber, silence reigned. The golden robes no longer glittered. The speaker bowed his head, his voice barely a whisper. "We laughed at them. We called them weak, but they stood when no one else would." Elder Kiva rose, her frail frame trembling, yet her voice rang strong. "Remember this day. The galaxy was saved not by power, not by pride, but by humans, fragile, foolish, and unbreakable. And in the quiet after the storm, the stars themselves seemed brighter. Humanity, the race once mocked as reckless dreamers, had become the defenders of the galaxy. They had defied all odds and won. But in Anna's heart, as she looked up at the night sky, she whispered, "If it ever knocks again, we will answer. Not with fear, but with fire." And the stars, for the first time, felt like they were listening.